How much comfort do you take from last week in the Blues, and how much does that result influence your selections for this week?
I think there's always a bit of an influence week to week, but we've got a plan, and I might have mentioned last week, we're trying to grow the depth and the breadth of the group, and so there's from time to time changes. Wrapped with what happened last week, obviously, and let's hopefully, and we think we can build on that as we've talked about, and the group that we've selected this week will do the job, no doubt.
I guess a few people out there will glance down to that number 10 and have a few questions. Do you want to just talk through? Taha's obviously started every game up until this point. For him, it's not necessarily a demotion, but just easing his workload as much as it is to give James an opportunity.
Yeah, it's very much that. Give him a chance to pull out of leading the group. Often, I've spoken regularly around his talent and his ability his growth in the very short space of time. We just want to make sure we manage that, but also if something untoward was to happen, that we've got players that have had time in the saddle, and James gets a start, and Rivers, who did a great job for us last year when he got the opportunity and has been injured and unavailable, is now fit and available, and we're going to have those two in the mix.
Do you see the game style shifting all that much with James's characteristics as opposed to Taha's?
No, I think there's a lot of similarities. That's the beauty, I guess, of the two of them. They feed off each other, and Rivers isn't too dissimilar either, and we're in a really good spot to be able to have three really capable men, and as I said, Taha's done an amazing job, and he'll be back shortly.
Just a couple more in terms of guys returning. Talk a lot about Ethan. How pleased he's back, and I guess can you talk us through the mindset for you as a coach around when a guy like that is itching to go, but in the back of your mind you must know his track record around these soft tissues that keep popping up. So is it a balancing act as to when you unleash him back into the fold?
Not really. If Ethan's fit and confident, which he is, we just let him go. As you say, history's history. We try to put that behind us. We don't refer to it. He's had a great run. He's had a great pre-season. He's put the work in. He got a couple of bangs. It was not a soft tissue that he's had more recently, which is great. And he's looking after the recovery period of the last 10 days or so to be back to his usual self, and just rapt to have him in the group, and hopefully he can have a really sequence of games now uninterrupted, which would be great.
This last one for me for now, but on the locking stocks, really healthy position. Antonio Shelfing's put a lot of minutes together. How happy to have Jamie Hanna back though, after I think you were saying last week was it 2 shoulder recons in the last year or so?
Yeah, well, intermittent rugby in between. He played quite a few games for us last year, probably played far too much for a young fella. We didn't do the right thing by him. We just didn't have any depth, and he had to go to the well every week, the poor young man. But now we feel as though we're able to really set him up to achieve what we all think he's very capable of, and it's the first step in that journey for him. So we're not expecting miracles this week, but it's back into the saddle, and looking forward to seeing him perform. And as you say, Antonio's done such a great job for us. Really, I guess, in his first full campaign as a Crusader, and just an opportunity to freshen him up, and he's been amazing for us.
Most of your All Blacks are either starting or on the bench. Is that a real nod to Moana? I know you mentioned them and the draw last week. That when you're talking about resting players, is that a nod to them?
Yeah, absolutely. They've done a terrific job, haven't they? They've been there or thereabouts. They should be higher up the ladder, probably, given their performances, but sometimes performances aren't reflected on where you are on the table. It's certainly a due tip of the hat to the success and the abilities of Moana, that we've selected a really strong team.
I think a few weeks ago we had Moana, you spoke about him playing as one of his best games, but did he perhaps even just better that the other day, over the ball, all elements of his game? It must be impressing you that depth you've got at hooker, even after losing George Bell.
Yeah, and I think I referred to it the other night that DP saw something in him about 3 seasons ago and brought him in, and he's been beavering away. And it's great to see that growth. He's still relatively young, and to have that calibre of talent available to us is beautiful. And that's what you need. And he's earned the respect of his teammates, and he's thriving. So, yeah, another great performance last week, and I expect the same again.
Is Moulds, is he sort of on as a full-time injury replacement in the squad now, or what's the guy?
Who's that, sorry?
Moulds,
Matt Moulds?
Matt Moulds.
Yeah. He's in for George Bell.
Yeah, so is that with Moa? He's still with the squad, but is he limited to appearances? Can you just explain how that works with?
No, George is Moa's in full time, but he'll go to the under-20s when they go to the World Cup, I think, which is in France this year. So in the interim, he's going to be with us, and Matt Moulds has come in as injury replacement for George, and if George was to come back, obviously Matt would hopefully stay on and take over from Moa.
I see, because on the injury report we get sent, it doesn't have season ending next to George Bell. So is there still a chance at the very back end of the season he could return?
There is, yeah. So heard from the medics today, there's he's progressing well, and there's no guarantees, but yeah, there isn't a season-ending comment by his name because there's still hope.
Before playoffs, or would it more likely be playoffs?
No idea. Yeah, I couldn't speculate on that.
Get a word on. Sorry,
You're right.
Get a word. 31 tries in 5 games. The Chiefs have scored the same in extra game. Can you just have a word on the impact James Marshall has taken over the attack?
Yes. I said right from the start of the season that I was just so excited about what James was bringing to our attack. Deserves all the kudos. Been well supported by Brad, but James has really stepped up in that area. The boys are excited about what he talks about every week and where our attack is getting to. And as you can see, there seems to be a lot of confidence building in the shapes that we're showing. And I'm glad you raised it, because it's great for a young coach, to be getting that sort of accolade, I guess.
There's still plenty of room, you think, for improvement. And
he
spoke about at the start of the season. He's got a massive playbook. He's been drawing up plays for months, but just the pace of bringing them out. So, how much more can he bring?
Oh, I think there's still a few tricks up his sleeve, and over the duration of the campaign, they'll become clearer, because you just keep having to evolve the game. And he's a Spark rugby man, and he's one of the great things about this environment is he's surrounded by other great rugby brains in the playing roster. Having the availability of Will Jordan and David Havili regularly, Dallas McLeod is just awesome for the vibrancy of the conversations and where the attack can go, and James is tapping into that beautifully.
Rob, if you look at Super as a whole, there are a lot of young teams across this, particularly the Kiwi clubs. Have you ever seen the competition like that, where it's young guys leading the teams around the park consistently and starting?
Given that I was away for 10 years, it's probably a little difficult to comment, although I was watching from afar, but there's a great cohort of young men. And as we know, it's such a challenging spot to play without experience. But it's a great reflection, I guess, on the coaching that they're getting nurtured through and are coping. And some of them are really excelling, like our boy. You can see the growth in him, and as you say, there's a good depth of talent there, and it'll be a few will emerge being world class, and that's obviously what the ABs are looking for.
He's obviously not in the mix this week, but what's he showing you that he is the real deal at being a long-term Crusaders team?
It's just everything, to be fair. He runs the week like a mature, seasoned player, and as a 21-year-old to be able to do that, it's a great credit to him. He's had to overcome some injury concerns, through the back end of the NPC. That was a horrific injury that he received, but his courage is without question, both offensively and defensively. He puts himself in hard spots, and the growth in his understanding of game management, which is always the last thing to to be the last piece of the puzzle, I guess, for a young 10, is just evolving beautifully. And with the assistance of Brad Moore in his corner and James Marshall just quietly getting better every week. And James O'Connor and Rivers Reihana are great supports for him, and David Hovey's voice just outside him quietly giving him advice on game day is I guess it's a culmination of a number of things for Taha, but when the student is ready, the teacher appears, and it's certainly happening with him.
And if you don't mind me asking as well, obviously over the weekend, Grizz Wiley's passing. Did you play under him at any time? But I guess, do you have any anecdotes you would like to share, and just your reaction to that sad news over the weekend?
Yeah, look, last time I saw Alex was at Shane Philpott's funeral. It was great to see him up there. I wouldn't say I had a close relationship with him, but he picked me as a 21-year-old after Town and Country, and we did a great tour of Buller and Westport, and sandwiched between a couple of club games, so 4 games in that week. And I remember vividly attending Canterbury trainings out here with the guys that I'd gone to Wellington as an 18-year-old to watch them rip the Ranfurly Shield off Wellington up there, and Smithy scoring that great try in the corner, and I was actually sitting in the stand in that corner. And then 2 years later, coming in and being part of that group, sat on the bench for a few games in that '85 season. So Alex, what a brain, a great rugby brain for a young man to come in, and I think the guys that have been around him a lot would be massive advocates for that, and I've heard a few of them mention how clever he was with his rugby stuff, him and Doug Bruce, probably ahead of their time, and it probably set the seed for a lot of us to think about the game a bit differently. So yeah, it's obviously there's some sadness there, but he had a great life, and his legacy will be long living.